All right, today we are diving into one of the trickiest situations you can imagine in real estate. What happens when the agent you hired to sell your house turns around and wants to buy it for themselves? Yeah, it sounds messy, and believe me, it can be.
So, this is the big question, right? It's a scenario that just screams conflict of interest. So, let's unpack the really important rules that are in place to protect you, the seller, when this happens. To make this easier to understand, let's imagine a quick story. We've got Sarah, who's selling her home, and her agent, Alex. Alex is supposed to be working for Sarah, but then he looks at her house and thinks, wow, this is a fantastic investment for me. This is that exact moment where all the rules we're about to go over become absolutely critical. And bam, right away, Alex has a huge dilemma. He's completely stuck between two opposing goals: his professional duty to get the best possible deal for his client, Sarah, and his own personal desire to get the best deal for himself. I mean, how can you possibly do both? Okay, so the absolute rock bottom, bare minimum rule for any deal is just be honest. Act in good faith. No fraud, no deception. This isn't some special high level rule, it's what's expected of everyone. But for a real estate agent, this is just the first step on a much, much higher ladder of responsibility. So, if just being honest is only the beginning, what's the real golden rule here? Well, it all boils down to one powerful concept that pretty much governs this entire situation: disclosure. Full, total, and complete disclosure. And to really get why disclosure is so important, we have to talk about something called fiduciary duty. Think of it as a sacred trust. It's the legal and ethical heart of the agent-client relationship. It means your agent makes a promise to put your interests above everyone else's, including their own. And when they want to buy your property, well, that promise is put to the ultimate test. And this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's written in stone, legally speaking. The Restatement of Agency, which is a super respected legal guide, puts it perfectly. An agent must disclose all relevant facts, every single one. Hiding important information is just as bad as outright lying. So, what does all relevant facts actually mean in the real world? Well, it starts with the obvious. The agent has to come right out and say, hey, I want to be the one to buy your house. But it goes so much deeper. They have to share anything that could possibly change the seller's mind, including how good of a deal it is. And, this is a big one, any profits they might be planning to make on it down the road. This really gets to the heart of the problem. A great way to think about it is that the agent is trying to wear two completely different hats at the exact same time. And as you're about to see, those two hats have totally opposite goals. This chart just lays it out so clearly. When Alex is wearing his agent hat, his job is to get the highest price he possibly can for Sarah. But the second he puts on his buyer hat, his goal flips 180 degrees. Now he wants the lowest possible price for himself. You just can't do both of those things at once. He's no longer just a trusted advisor. He's now a principal in the deal, looking out for number one. And because of that massive conflict, the client has to be told, in no uncertain terms, that their agent is now playing this dual role. They are both an agent who owes you a duty and a buyer who is acting for their own personal gain. There can't be any confusion about this. Zero. This conflict can get even more intense in certain types of deals. Things like option to buy agreements or guaranteed sales. Basically, any situation where the agent could make money beyond their regular commission is a huge red flag that requires the absolute highest level of caution and disclosure. So, how does this switch from agent to buyer actually happen? We've come to what is, without a doubt, the most critical and honestly the most dangerous part of this whole process: the moment of transition. The key thing to understand is that making this switch while you're already in the middle of representing the client is super risky. It needs what the law calls a clear and distinct disclosure that your status has changed. This can't just be a casual mention in a phone call. It has to be a formal, official moment where the client understands the whole relationship has just fundamentally changed. Here's a perfect playbook for how to do this the wrong way and get into serious trouble. Our agent, Alex, lists Sarah's property and gives her advice. Then he realizes it's a steal and makes his own offer. But, and this is the crucial mistake, he fails to formally and clearly tell her that he's no longer just her agent. The minute he does that, he's breached his fiduciary duty, and that could lead to anything from losing his license to a court just voiding the whole sale. So what's the right way to handle this? The best practice couldn't be clearer. Put it in writing. Before that deal is signed, there has to be a piece of paper that proves the agent disclosed their change in status. It's the single best way to protect everybody involved. Okay, so let's wrap this all up. What is the absolute bottom line when it comes to these fiduciary duties in practice?
Here are the big takeaways. First, remember, just being honest is the starting line, not the finish line. The real goal is full disclosure of every single relevant fact. Second, that switch from agent to buyer, it's a huge deal and has to be formally communicated, preferably in writing. And finally, and this is so important, that fiduciary duty doesn't just vanish when the agent becomes the buyer. In fact, you could argue it gets even stronger because now the burden is on them to prove they acted fairly.
And believe it or not, the rules can get even more specific. For instance, if the agent is also helping to set up the financing for the deal, they might have to provide a whole separate disclosure for that. It just goes to show you how many layers of protection are built in to try and keep things fair. So we'll end with this question. When your agent becomes your buyer, who are all these rules really for? Of course, they're there to protect the seller who put their trust in a professional, but they also protect the agent by giving them a clear ethical roadmap through a very complicated situation. At the end of the day, these rules are what makes sure the deal is fair and that a sacred trust isn't broken.